In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the geometry basics, like points, lines, and planes. We're going to try to give a description, a sketch, and then how we name these particular components. The first one, a point. We want to think of a point as an exact location, somewhere in space, that has an indefinite shape and an indefinite size. As you might guess, we would simply put a point and then put a capital letter beside that point for its name. So we would name it simply with a capital letter. Then let's look at a line. A line is an object with no thickness that extends infinitely in both directions. When we sketch the line, we want to make sure that we put arrows on both ends. You can choose to name your line with a cursive letter out to the side. Notice it is a lowercase cursive letter. Or if you have points on your line, you can name your line according to those points with a line symbol above them. Now you can label this as line XY, or you could label it as line YX. Or of course you could label it as line cursive L. Next, let's look at a line segment. A line segment is a piece of a line consisting of two endpoints and all points in between. The line segment is different from a line because it has a beginning and an ending point. When we label that line, or when we name that line, notice that I don't put the arrows on the end. So again, in this case, this could be segment XY, or it could be segment YX. A ray is a piece of a line, but it only has one endpoint, and it extends infinitely in only one direction. So a ray has an endpoint, but it keeps going in one direction. When we name the rays, we have to be careful because it is definitely X that is the endpoint. So we make sure that we put the Y with the arrow. Now I could have written this as ray YX, and traditionally we do not, as long as I make sure that the Y has the arrow. Next, let's look at opposite rays. Opposite rays are two rays that share the same endpoint, and they continue infinitely in opposite directions. So remember, they're going to share an endpoint, but they're going in opposite directions. So here's the endpoint they're going to share. I'm going to label it X, and I'm going to put one ray going this way, and then I'll have another ray sharing that endpoint but going this direction. We would label these XY, same as before, and XZ. Notice the Z has the arrow because the X was the endpoint. Next, let's look at a plane. A plane is a flat surface that extends infinitely. And this time, it's in all directions. Generally, when we sketch a plane, we're going to sketch something like a parallelogram. But we'll put arrows to indicate that it is expanding in all directions. I might even put some points inside. And when we name a plane, we name it with 3 letters. Or you can choose to use a cursive, lowercase, like in this case, this could be plane R. Notice again I used a lowercase letter. Next, let's look at collinear. Collinear are points that lie on the same line. So if I have a line here and I have points that are on this line, we would say that X, Y, and Z here are collinear, meaning they are all on the same line. Non-collinear are points that do not lie on the same line. For instance, we could have 2 points that are on the line and a third point that's not. We would say that those points are non-collinear. Coplanar are points that lie on the same plane. We draw our plane, again like a parallelogram. And we have some points that are inside. Non-coplanar would be points that do not lie on the same plane. And again, we might have, in this case, 2 points that are on the plane and 1 that is not. So maybe I have A and B, but C is somewhere else. We would say that those points are non-coplanar.